national educator.
A very good afternoon to you, and thank you for your continued viewing of The National Educator. My name is Usha Jose and our sign language interpreter is Winnie Ngari. Now 21 more days of lockdown means that our students do get to stay home for another 21 days, and that means that right here at EduTV our out of class learning continues. For the morning sessions we have had the students or learners of the younger classes, and now we do move on to upper primary as well as secondary school. Now to begin with, at exactly 2 p.m. our first lesson is for the class 8 students, 2 p.m. all the way to 2:30, and today's lesson will be science, and more specifically the environment. We are talking about soil conservation. Now this is something that the world over is grappling with, so do make sure to make time for that. At 2:30 p.m. all the way to 3 p.m. we will have our class 5 students learning social studies, and today we are on the topic of agriculture and more specifically dairy farming. So for all class 5 students, do make time for that. At 3:05 p.m. all the way to 3:35 p.m. we will now be moving on to secondary school, and we will start with our Form 2 students who will be learning English today, and today's topic is interpretive reading. Now remember, this is one of the areas that is tested in the national examinations, so definitely very vital, very important that you be sitting in front of your screen for this one. Now as we say, this is for the Form 2 students specifically, but remember, if you are in a Form 3 or Form 4, this could still serve as revision, so do make sure that you catch that as well. At 3:35 p.m. all the way to 5 p.m. we will have our candidates, that is the Form 4 students who will be studying Kiswahili, and for today we will be tackling Shamirisho na Chagizo. Moving on, at 4:10 all the way to 4:40 p.m. we will now move on to our Form 1 students who will be learning about physics, and today we are on pressure. That is the Pascal principle. Now whenever we are dealing with principles or theories, it's very vital that you do make time, that you ensure that you understand this class, because a lot of your calculations will be based on this principle, so do make sure that you make time for that. Since this is a Form 1 class, I think it's safe to say anyone in secondary should definitely make time for this. Now moving on, at 4:45 p.m. all the way to 5:15 p.m. we have our Form 2 students tackling business studies, and for today we are dealing with communication. Remember, the biggest and most important part of any business is how you carry out your communication, so do make sure that you slot time for that. And then moving on, at 5:20 all the way to 5:50 p.m. we will have our candidates once more, and the topic of today, rather the subject, happens to be geography. We will be discussing renewable sources of energy. Moving on, at 5:55 p.m. all the way to 6:25 p.m. we have our Form 1 students learning about chemistry. Today we are discussing acids, bases and indicators. Now remember, this is a topic that you will find once more in Form 3 as we delve deeper into it, so very important that you do take note at this particular moment, because it is one of the topics that you will revisit later on. Moving on, at 6:30 p.m. all the way to 7 p.m. we have our Form 3 students tackling history and government. Today specifically we are talking about social and economic development during the colonial period in Kenya, so do make time for that. And then just as we're about to wind up, we know that that has been a lot of heavy subjects, and so now we move on to the set books. At 7:05 p.m. all the way to 7:35 p.m. p.m., we have our Kiswahili set book, Tumbo Lisilo Shiba. And today's specific story happens to be Kidege. Now remember, we're not actually reading the book, but rather we're going to be discussing it. So if you haven't yet gotten to that story, you have between now and then to read the story so that you can be better acquainted as we discuss Kidege. And to close off our academic programming for today, at 7:40 p.m. all the way to 8:10 p.m. we will have A Doll's House. This is the English set book, and we shall be discussing it, which will bring us to the end of the educational programming. But do not worry, we will still have amazing content for you after that. So hopefully now you've found your slot and you're ready with your pen and your book. Moving on to the parental empowerment session. Today specifically we are talking about supporting your learners at home. Remember, we have mentioned that once more the lockdown has been extended, and therefore in extension schools are also not opening. And as a parent, you're wondering how to provide that environment where your child can learn. So the first thing is to establish a structure. Routine is very important. Now, given that they are home, I suppose usually they're used to waking up whenever they want, eating when they're hungry and not at a specific time, but you do need to treat this as though they are in school. Let them have a specific time to wake up, a specific meal time, a specific shower time, and do make sure that in between they are actually studying. Now, moving on, you also need to set up a study space. Now, we understand a lot of the education that is happening now is happening probably from the TV. So assuming that they are seated at the sofa, that's going to be a bit too comfortable, they're going to be tempted to, say, for example, doze off at some point. So if possible, if you could have a setup where they are still at a desk, or at least not watching their lessons while they're lying horizontally, that would actually help even in terms of their mindset and for them to be able to grasp the concepts better. We also need to take time out. Now remember, even when they are in school, they do have breaks, and given the way the classes have been slotted, it's very hard to forget that your students, or rather your children, do need breaks. Make sure that they take these breaks. Make sure that every time, as soon as a lesson is done, they have breathing space, they have activities they're doing that they actually enjoy. And speaking of activities that they enjoy, tap into their interests as you are making this schedule for them. Remember, as the parent, you're the one who's in charge of deciding what they do, but also do just tap into what would they want me to slot for their break. You know, what would interest them, what would motivate their mind and jog their mind, so that after their break, when they come back to class, they're ready for the lesson. Moving on, time and again, it's also very pertinent that you let them be the teacher. Let them teach you something. Even in the classes, and especially for the younger children, if there is a specific topic or a specific answer that you know, perhaps don't say it to them, but rather ask them. Let them feel like they're imparting knowledge with you. And this not only helps them remember better, it also improves their confidence and their self-esteem. Also, you do have to remember to praise effort. Remember, again, you have been given the role which usually typically is for the teacher, which is just teaching and ensuring that they are disciplined while in class. Now, a lot of the times, given that this is a new role you're taking on, that of the class just taking care of them while they are in class, you might spend too much time in correcting and actually forget to praise them. So it's very important that your criticism is positive, but on top of that, that you actually do notice when they do the right thing. And finally, and this applies to out of class as well, this applies to every aspect of home, do stay positive. These are new times for all of us. These are new situations for all of us, but children feed off of your energy, and so it's very, very important that you stay positive. I hope these tips have helped you create a better environment for your child. But for now, we go back to the educational programming. Enjoy your viewing.
National Educator.